Okay, we are live. ¿Qué tal, amigos? Stuart here with a Spain news update, looking at some of the main stories that have caught my attention in the press today, the 16th of September 2025, 7:40 p.m. and the usual format of the video this evening. We'll look at some comments that have been left on the channel too, apart from the main news stories, and we'll also go into the chat section and check out what is happening there in the live chat, the viewers that are watching currently. If that is you, say hello in that chat section. Now, we'll get straight into the news, and Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez is splashing the cash around. You can tell that elections are just around the corner, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Sánchez calls a snap election sometime soon, maybe in 2026. I don't know, but as I said, the cash seems to be flowing here in Spain because he has unveiled a €30,000 rent-to-buy aid program for young people in protected housing. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has announced two measures to improve housing access for under 35s. First, the grant of up to nearly €30,000 to rent protected housing with an option to buy. Monthly rent payments will count as advance instalments towards the eventual purchase. These dwellings will remain permanently protected to prevent speculation. Any future sale must be at a regulated price to an eligible buyer. Second, the government will offer up to €10,800, capped at 20% of the price, for first home purchases in rural municipalities of 10,000 residents or fewer. Both initiatives sit within the 2026 to 2030 state housing plan with an age limit of 35. Sánchez also pledged to activate a rent non-payment insurance scheme during the current parliamentary session. Announcing the measures, he referenced the need to support towns affected by this summer's wildfires. So Pedro Sánchez, Spanish Prime Minister, on the front foot, money flying around, as I mentioned before, up to €30,000 to help young people get into their first home. That's if they buy in a city. They've also got some type of rent insurance plan on the cards as well. And if young people decide to buy in rural areas where populations, as we saw there, are fewer than 10,000 people, then they get up to €10,800, or what was it, 20% of the price of the home. So as I said, the government splashing money around, trying to get young people on board, assuring future voters, I would say also, and cash on the table there for young people here in Spain. And again, will this solve the housing crisis in the country? Some people are skeptical, of course, saying this is nothing more than attention-grabbing headline stuff from the Prime Minister, and he needs to back it up with putting money on the table, and putting these plans into action rather than just words, which they currently are. So we'll see if this program gets off the ground. Some might think it will, some might think it won't. Time will tell, as I always say. Second piece of news here, and Spain's main political parties are clashing over Gaza protests and Israel policy. Spain's ruling socialists, the PSOE party, and the conservative Partido Popular have deepened their rift following a mass pro-Palestinian protests that forced the cancellation of the Vuelta a España's final stage in Madrid. Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez praised the demonstrations as an immense honour and defence of what is right, hailing civil society's stand against genocide in Gaza and calling Spain the nation that saves Europe's honour. Opposition leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo branded the protests political violence and a global embarrassment, accusing Sánchez of isolating Spain from allies. In speeches launching the political season, both leaders rejected compromise. Sánchez defended Spain's recognition of Palestine and questioned why Israel faces no sporting bans despite its actions in Gaza, while Feijóo warned he would concede not a millimetre to the government. So the typical toing and froing from both sides of the political spectrum here in Spain, the left-wing Socialist Party, the PSOE, and the right-wing Conservative PP clashing over Gaza, as we saw there. We saw at the weekend, I think it was last Sunday, the Vuelta a España, Spain's premier cycling race, was the final stage was cancelled because of pro-Palestinian protests that took place on that day. Things got a little bit violent. Barricades were thrown at police. The riot police then retaliated, hitting back at the protesters. And as I said, things a little bit ugly. And some people criticising the government for fueling the protests. And as we saw there, the comments coming out from Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. What were the exact words? Defence of what is right and hailing civil society's stand against what's happening in Gaza. The words there of the Spanish Prime Minister. So, the international press was a little bit critical of Spain, I think, for not being able to keep the protesters under control during that event. But of course, the government, I think, had a plan to let the final stage of that race be disrupted and put Spain into the international spotlight, and also its stance against what's happening in that part of the world between those two places, I should say, Israel and Gaza. The third piece of news related to the conflict there in the Middle East, because Spain is threatening a Eurovision boycott over Israel's participation. Spain's public broadcaster RTVE has voted to withdraw from the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest in Austria if Israel is not expelled, marking what would be Spain's first absence since joining the contest in 1961. After heated debate, 10 of RTVE's 15 board members backed the move, with 4 opposed and 1 abstention. The decision follows calls from Culture Minister Ernest Urtasun and coalition partner Sumar to exclude Israel over what they describe as the UN-confirmed genocide in Gaza. RTVE President Jose Pablo Lopez introduced the proposal unexpectedly during Monday's board meeting, responding to mounting government pressure. The broadcaster stressed that the popular Benidorm Fest, which selects Spain's Eurovision act, will still take place in 2026 for its 5th edition. Spain's stance challenges the European Broadcasting Union, the EBU, which organises Eurovision and has not indicated any plan to bar Israel. So Spain again threatening there, as we can see, another tough stance on Israel, threatening to boycott the Eurovision Song Contest. Some people would say that's a good thing if Spain didn't participate, because let's be honest, Spain doesn't do much in that song competition. And other people would say, why does that song competition exist at all in the year 2025? I've got no answers to that question. But anyway, we'll see if the organisers of that competition do force the Israelis out, and Spain will stay in. If not, Spain, as we saw there, will pull out. So interesting times we're living as far as this conflict is concerned, and Spain's stance on it. And let's just say the relations between Spain and Israel at the moment, probably we could say at an all-time low, given the Spanish government's stance on what is going on there, as I said before. So interesting times indeed. And the final piece of news, as we can see here, an update on a story that we saw last week, and it is that seaside homes win temporary reprieve in Guardamar coastal demolition dispute. Residents of Guardamar del Segura's Bablionia Beach in Alicante have halted for now a government-ordered demolition of their seafront homes. The Ministry for Ecological Transition, MITECO, had set the 15th of September as the date to tear down houses, it says, disrupt natural sand and tide movements, worsening coastal erosion. Neighbours, some of them living there for generations, filed last-minute legal appeals supported by the Valencian regional government and presented technical reports blaming erosion on a poorly built breakwater instead. The dispute stems from Spain's 1988 coastal law, which ended indefinite concessions granted in 1934 and required owners to pay for demolition themselves. Although Spain's Supreme Court upheld their right to an extension, final approval rested with the Meteco, which refused. Lawyer and resident Manuel Lopez has led years of legal battles and lodged a fresh appeal that has stalled the process. For now, residents celebrate sleeping another night in their homes. So, good news for the residents of those homes, which, as I said, we saw last week, the article where they were contemplating the demolition of their homes, the government cracking down because of that coastal law, a problem that has been going on literally for decades here in Spain. And as we saw there, the demolition has been postponed. So, those houses will live another day, another month, another year. Who knows how long those houses will be there on the beachfront in Alicante, with the water hitting the side of those houses when the storms come in. So if they are not demolished by force, I imagine that nature will have its way with those houses eventually, and they will succumb to the sea. Time will tell. Comments time. We're going to take a look at some of the main comments that have been left on the channel in recent times by viewers. This one here from Shiny Things. Missed the part of the report they said seized or social housing. It sounds to me like they want owners of properties currently making profits for Airbnb to be available for people who need to rent. Thanks, Shiny Things. I might have added those words to the broadcast the other day. I don't think there was any mention from the government that they plan to turn them into social housing. But my question is, if you take people's homes that were on that register that the government classifies as illegal tourist rents, and that they're going to turn them into housing for young people, then it sounds like a social housing project for me. And do the owners have a say? That was my point the other day. Will the owners of those houses have a say as to whom they rent their properties to? Maybe they don't want to rent them at all, but is the government going to force them to do that? That is what I understood from the text. The houses are on a registry. The government has said that these houses are not fit for this type of rental. We're going to make them into this type of rental. So it sounds like the government is imposing itself on the owners of those homes. I don't know. Again, this is just the plan. Time will tell. Another one here from the Oz something. With the drop of British tourists, this will be a good use of apartments. I think we have all got the message. The anti-Semite ministers are off-putting too. Thanks for the comment there. Another person here saying the drop of British tourists will be a good use of apartments. All of the British press, of course, have been telling us for years now that British people are not coming to Spain as often as they used to do. Fewer people from that country coming to Spain. I don't know if the figures back that up. I know that Britain is still the number one source of foreign tourists in this country, followed by other European countries. But this person here, as we saw here, thinking that we've all got the message, whatever that message may be. Thanks for the comment. Another one here from Andrea. Housing should be for the locals. Hotels are for tourists. Yeah, Andrea, thanks for the comment. I'm sure some people will support your statement there, saying that tourists should only go to hotels, keep out of private rentals, Airbnb platforms and the like. But some other people would say, I like staying in authentic apartments in Spanish cities that have been put on the Airbnb platform to give people a choice, whether you want to go to a hotel or whether you want to go to somebody's apartment who is trying to make a euro out of it as well, and they're giving you that authentic experience. which has caused a lot of controversy in recent times. And the Spanish government, as we know, is trying to crack down on it. Hence the removal of those extra 53,000 apartments added to the 100,000 plus apartments that were already taken off the Airbnb platform a few months ago, I think. But thanks for the comment. Another one here from Mary Fergie. I am happy to learn that Spain is listening to their citizens to protect available rentals. It is important to maintain local culture. After all, tourists come to visit Spanish culture. Thanks for the comment, Mary Fergie. Another person there happy with the Spanish government's plans to remove these rentals from Airbnb. Important to maintain local culture. Yeah, again, that is a side of the argument that some people would support. I don't know. It's a difficult one to try and work out what is right and what is wrong. Do people have the opportunity with platforms like Airbnb to put their properties on it and make money that way? Or should, as the other person suggested, only stay in hotels and other types of accommodations specifically for tourists and get rid of platforms like Airbnb altogether? I don't know. Let me know in the comment section your thought on it. But is Spanish culture at risk of the tourist invasion into the heart of the neighborhood, into the heart of the barrios here in Spanish cities? That's the question. One here from Health Explained. I have marched in Free Palestine protests myself, but it is unhelpful for these protests to interfere with the race. They already had extensive exposure from the side of the road. I wonder what these protesters think they will achieve by going so far. Again, good question. What is the objective of the protesters? Is it simply to disrupt the race, or was it to get their point across to the millions of people that are watching the broadcast live on television? As that person points out, maybe you can do that without the violence. That's the question. Is it possible to do it without disrupting the race and maybe putting the lives of the cyclists at risk, but risk of injury, no doubt, if somebody suddenly jumps out in front of the peloton, as they call it, and riders come off their bikes head over heels and injure themselves? That's the question. What are we expecting here? I don't know. Maybe a more peaceful protest should have been done, and not the violent protest that we saw in a few of the stages. So again, it depends on where you stand on this issue. So interesting comment. Thank you very much for it. I personally don't think protests should ever turn violent, but of course there's always going to be a radical element in the protests that only know violence, and that is what they do. And according to the Spanish police, in another article that I read, some of the people that were on the front line of those protests were well known in other violent protests around the country in recent years in Spain. Another one here from Salter. Last week I read that all tourist lets, including Airbnbs, came in at less than 1% of all Spanish homes. It's a chronic shortage of affordable housing in all EU countries with a significant economy. These headlines take the attention away from the government's failure in this matter. Yes, I think you were on the mark there with that comment. Headlines take away the government's failure to fix the housing crisis, something which has been going on for years now, and the Spanish government desperate to come up with measures, popular measures that are going to keep people happy, but also keep tourists coming to the country. Don't know if that's possible or not, because the negative publicity does get out there. But as we can see here, we saw this statistic on the channel the other day too, somebody saying less than 1% of all Spanish homes dedicated to Airbnb. If that is the case, I can't back this up because I haven't done any research on the matter, but I'll take this person's word for it. And if it is the case, then this whole thing that the Spanish government, this whole show that the Spanish government is putting on seems like a bit of a smokescreen to cover up other issues. And believe me, there's plenty of other issues that the Spanish government is dealing with at the moment. that's it. Now we're going to go into the comment section, or the chat section, sorry, in just a moment. Before I get there, I need to change the backdrop picture. It is on the screen now. And this picture was sent in by Colin, and it is the guns of Cartagena, I think. The access there is cut off because of works that are going on. That's a sign that you'll see at a lot of places here in Spain. But thanks, Colin, for sending this picture through. And if you have a similar picture you would like to see on the backdrop, the email address is on the screen now, currently spainspeaks@gmail.com. Feel free to send your pictures through to that email address, or any other thing that you want to send my way, whether it's an article, whether it's some type of information about something that's happened here in Spain. Feel free to send your pictures through to that email address. Now, I'm just going to de-blur the background. Let me do that here quickly. There we go. So we can see Colin's picture. And I'm going to put the like icon on the screen too. If you haven't hit it yet, please do so. Currently at 57 likes. So do us a favor and hit that like icon if you can. Whether you're watching on a phone, on your computer, television, go into the settings and hit the like icon, please. People that have supported the channel in recent times, whether it's by giving me a super thanks here on YouTube, or a super chat during the live streams, people that have bought me a coffee. Somebody has just bought me some coffee, so I'll acknowledge that person in just a moment. And also the longer-term supporters on Patreon, thank you very much for that. Sean has just bought me 3 coffees from Austin, Texas. Thank you very much for that support, Sean. And also the channel members of this YouTube channel, again, thank you very much for that support. Now, let's go into the comment section. Let me open it up here. Scrolling up to the top, let me see. The first one that I can see here, the first chat, is from Marianne. I already hit the like button. I'm enjoying the same weather as Uncle Al. Wishing you all the same. Thank you very much, Marianne. Good to see you this evening. James and Kathy are also in the chat from milder and sunnier Worcester. Always looking forward to the live streams and catching up with the news. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in this evening. Tio Al, we'll get the weather update from San Diego here now. 28 degrees Celsius and sunny there, dreaming about a tinto de verano, which is a Spanish summer drink that features red wine and lemonade, or a drink here that they call casera. I don't know how we would describe casera. It's sort of like a sweet soda water. Does that make sense? If anybody has a better definition, let me know. But you can put 7-Up in there, or Sprite, or another lemonade, or this casera. Thanks, Al. I'm thirsty now. High Flyer John is in the chat here too. Valued member. Trust all is well. All the best for the week ahead. Thanks for that. Erica, regular viewer too. Hi everyone, from a nice and not too hot terraza. Ideal temperature after some big storms. It seems that normality is coming back. Wish everyone a lovely week. Thanks, Erica. I know rain is needed in that part of Spain, in the Catalonia region. So hopefully you got a few millimeters of rain, and I'm sure that once the rainy season comes, more will fall. Stephen is in the chat as well, coming in, valued member. Hope everyone's had a good start to the week, watching from a mild and pleasant North London. Quite a decent day for autumn, says Stephen. Thank you very much, Stephen, for tuning in this evening also. No doubt wishing to be back in Torrevieja. Janet, valued member 2, coming in from Oxford this evening. Good to see you, Janet. YouTubers, hi Stu, from a very hot and humid, or humid and hot, Torrevieja down there on the coast, on the Mediterranean coast. Good to see you, YouTubers. Fiber TNT, 32 degrees in Kansas City, where they are currently. Bronny in the chat here too, coming in from South Wales, UK. Thanks again for the live stream. Bronny, good to see you, Bronny too. Andrew, also in the chat. Regular viewer is Andrew, valued member also. Hope your week is off to a good start. Nice but cold in London southeast. Thanks, Andrew. YouTubers has a comment here. If they strengthened landlords' rights against rent dodgers and squatters, they'd set up hundreds of thousands of properties for the rental market. Thanks. Yeah, I'm sure the government has that in mind. I think we saw that there was going to be some type of rent guarantee program as well. If that is the case, and as I said, if this plan gets off the ground, then landlords would have some type of guarantee, for lack of a better word, that they will get their money every month, which is the objective, right? Nobody puts their property on the rental market to have them to get shafted by a tenant that decides not to pay. And believe me, it happens far too frequently in Spain. You speak to virtually anybody that has a rental property out there, or somebody's parents, and they've had this issue. Or it seems I have heard a lot of stories in recent times from people in that very situation, and they have trouble getting the squatters out. So maybe this government guarantee will strengthen the rental market. We will see. Flutter Girl coming in from a sunny Toronto, where summer is sticking around. Good to see, because I imagine Toronto gets cold in the winter months, as most of Canada probably does. Andrew coming in from Amariña, up there in the north of Spain. Sun, cloudless day, 30 degrees. Light breeze, no complaints at all. Enjoy, Andrew, enjoy, because as you well know, the weather will change soon in Galicia. The sun will disappear, the rain will come, and the grey skies. Barbara in the chat here too, coming in from a different part. Oh, currently in Catral, recovering from a bad fall. Sorry to hear that, Barbara. Hope you're okay. The weather today pleasant, with a temperature around 30 degrees. Thanks, Barbara, for that. As I said, recover quickly from your fall. Kev here too. Evening, Stu and all. Had a nice ride. Had a ride north to inland Alicante today with a bit of lunch at Santa Pola Beach. Nice day. Glad to be home though. Thanks, Kev. Getting around, exploring a little bit. Santa Pola in Alicante. How far would that be away from you? I know that Murcia and Alicante are neighbouring provinces, but I imagine it's a trip up the highway, right? Or the motorway. Or whatever road you took. Fibre. It will be interesting to see if the removal of short-term rentals will have any visible impact on the Andalusia long-term rental market. Yes, a lot of people will be interested to see what the impact will be. Fibre, I am sure. Richard coming in from Buffalo and Altea, Valencia. 2 places, is that, Richard? Good to see you today. Kev saying, crikey, Spain not in Eurovision. Who will Portugal vote for? Good one there, Kev. As we know, the main votes that Spain has got in recent years have been from Portugal, the neighbouring country. They don't seem to get much support from anyone else. Spain, not surprising with the rubbish that they normally dish up for Eurovision. But just my opinion. The last time Spain won Eurovision, don't know. Can't remember the last time Spain won Eurovision. They once won back in the 1960s with a song that was called La La La. And I think there weren't too many more words to that song other than La La La. So it goes to show what we're dealing with when it comes to Eurovision and the quality of some of the songs. La La La. What else? Lots of love for Barbara here. Lots of people telling Barbara to get well quickly. Good to see. Armour in the chat here, coming in from Benihofar, 27 degrees there, enjoying this evening. Good to see you this evening also. Stratospherian, valued member, good evening all. Good to see you too. Osuaket, hello all. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you very much. Hope you are too. Kathy L, thanks for the great videos. We enjoy them. Watching from Missouri in the United States. Thanks for tuning in, Kathy. Joe, with a point of view from an owner, as an owner, I should have the right to do what I want with my real estate. In a normal scenario, that would be the case, Joe. You buy a property to do whatever you want with it. If you want to live in it, great. If you want to rent it out, great. If you want to put it on a platform like Airbnb, if you meet the requirements, great. If you want to have it sitting there empty, going up in value, I don't have a problem with that. But some people do. And as I mentioned the other day also, this current government is creeping further to the left. Hence some of these policies that we're starting to see. So, should have the right, but Spanish government might think otherwise. I don't know. It's just the plan at the moment. Kathy saying hello to Fibre. There we go. Hike Rangers in the chat here too. Valued member. 6 weeks to go, then back to Tenerife. Hope all goes well with that trip back. Still raining in Ireland, according to Billy. Well, I imagine it's going to be raining for a while in Ireland, Billy. As we know, Ireland is green for a reason. That would be the rain. That would be the rain. Andrew saying, Stuart, not a criticism, but for your information, but when you put the background picture on the screen, it is not blurred. When you say you are de-blurring the picture, it remains the same. I think this picture is a little bit blurry, if that makes sense there, Andrew, because before it looked like this. See the difference? When it was behind me before, or maybe like that. So de-blurring it, but it's still a little bit blurry. That's the issue with this photo. If I do it with another one, you can probably see the difference a bit more. So, for example, the one that I had the other day, this one here of Segovia, which is not blurred, we can see here that if I do blur it, you get that effect. So that's what I mean. I'll just go back to Colin's photo here. There we go. But thanks for the comment, Andrew. Musical memories, grey overcast in Dublin. Just found your channel. It's been a great resource. Thanks for that. What else we got going on here? NAMTAF. What? They want to contribute to the EU budget before handing out to their lazy population. Criticism of the government. A little bit harsh in my opinion, but everyone's entitled to one. Let's be honest, Spain would not win the Eurovision anyway. Don't think so, Makish. As I said, especially with some of the tripe that they've been serving up in recent years, no chance. No chance. And Jeff, haven't seen Jeff for a while, coming in from Casas de Benítez, Cuenca. We are growing and now have over 1,000 people, up from 753 years ago. Well, Spain is growing, Jeff. Spain is growing. A lot of people want out of the cities after they had their COVID experience. They want to go to smaller towns working from home. And no doubt that is why, or one of the reasons at least, why the population would have grown from 750 to 1,000 over the last 3 years. People looking for that smaller town life here in Spain. And let's be honest about this. You do get a good quality of life in many of the smaller towns, smaller cities here in Spain, the regional capitals, places like this one here, close to bigger cities, of course, so you can get things done if you need to. That's why people move there. Thanks, Jeff, for the comment. Now, that's the last comment that I can see. I'm going to wrap this live stream up. It's been a pleasure. Back again on Thursday with another one. Hope to see you then. Hasta luego. Hasta entonces. Adios. Bye-bye.